I recently did a video all about posts on social media by private landlords and how it reveals that often they're perhaps not getting things quite right when they're managing their own properties, and it struck a bit of a chord with some of my viewers. So I thought I'd do a new series of videos which I'm very loosely calling... And out of the kindness of my heart, in these videos I thought I would try my best to help these landlords and give them some good advice. So I picked a really good one to start with here, and this is one that I found on a landlord forum on Facebook, and this has been posted by a 100% genuine landlord who I'm going to call Alan. He says, I find myself in a predicament. I purchased a buy-to-let property in 1999 and have managed the letting of it since then with very little issues. This year I let the property to a young couple on a 6-month assured short-hold tenancy agreement. At the end of the let, I met them at the property and they've made a feeble attempt at cleaning and only returned 1 or 2 sets of keys. Consequently, I advised them that I'd be holding back £210 of their £750 deposit to cover the above. Shortly after this, I received an email from a solicitor stating that I'd not used a tenancy deposit scheme and they were entitled to pursue me for up to 3 times their deposit in damages. Oh, Alan. Bearing in mind they'd left the property in a mess and not returned the keys, I was shocked to receive this email. However, upon researching tenancy deposit schemes, I'm now aware that it's compulsory, and it states online that they can indeed pursue me for up to 3 times their deposit value. This isn't something I'm disputing now that I'm aware of it, but wasn't prior to this situation. Is there anyone here who's gone through the situation? How did it go for you? And are tenants, no matter how bad, ever awarded 3 times their deposit? Alan, this is one of the basics of taking a deposit against a tenancy. You must, by law, register that deposit for protection with one of the government-approved deposit protection schemes within 30 days of their payment being received by you. And you must also provide them with what's known as the prescribed information, which gives the tenant all of the details about the scheme that you're using. The law recognises that this money remains the possession of the tenant until it's agreed otherwise, normally at the end of the tenancy. And with that in mind, the law requires you to protect that deposit against being treated poorly by landlords, such as you, I'm afraid, Alan. The other thing that I don't really like is that I advised them that I'd be holding back £210 of their deposit. I'm afraid you can't just tell a tenant that you're taking their deposit. You've got to negotiate an agreement with them, and that's normally an extensive and thorough, detailed process of incredibly detailed inventories, providing quotes, putting all of that information in front of a tenant, usually with copies of the clauses of their tenancy agreement that they're in breach of, by not properly cleaning the property, and getting them to agree in writing that you may deduct an amount from their deposit. And in terms of what you're going to have to do now, Alan, I'm afraid that you will probably be liable for 3 times the deposit in terms of a penalty that you have to pay to the tenants. It's a sliding scale, anything between 1 and 3 times the deposit, and usually the amount awarded to the tenant reflects just how grave the landlord's error is. And in this instance, when you didn't even realise that there was a deposit protection scheme you had to use, I imagine that a judge would probably award the full amount to the tenant. And that's in addition to you having to also refund the deposit in full to the tenants. So you're going to be stumping up the tenant's deposit and a penalty worth 3 times the amount of their deposit. And this also highlights something else that's very prevalent at the moment, that this came from a solicitor, not from the tenants themselves. And one thing that is happening at the moment is you are finding these, for want of a better phrase, ambulance chasers who are contacting tenants to say, have you checked that your deposit has been accurately and correctly registered? If not, we can help you, no win, no fee. And they send out a letter which is very threatening and very scary to you if you're not used to them. So landlords, make sure that you have followed the steps that I've outlined in this email, in this video. And if you're a little bit like Alan and you're unsure of what you should be doing, then please contact a properly qualified letting agent. That's all for now. See you next time on Toby versus the Internet.